Konnichiwa minasan. Uh, Complementary and alternative medicine has been part of different cultures all over the world, Asia, Africa, Europe, and so on. India and China probably have the biggest repertoire of herbal alternative medicine. And Manipur also has its own system which developed independently of systems such as Ayurveda. Now in India, we have a separate body in the form of Ayush Ministry, which has been tasked with the regulation of the complementary and alternative medicine systems in India. On top of this, we have nutraceuticals and supplements which are gaining notorious popularity. Now, the regulation of these products fall under a separate body, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, the FSSI in short. However, Indian regulatory bodies, they are quite infamous for their lackadaisical and unethical attitude. Now, one common thing among the proponents of CAM system, the nutraceuticals and herbal supplements is their claim that their products are 100% safe and purely plant-based. However, this is a bold-faced lie and public deception. Not only do these products lack scientific validation, but there are reports all over the world about their toxicity. Unfortunately, many of these cases go unreported. Now, to have a little conversation on this matter, we have with us someone who has been working on liver toxicity induced by consumption of herbal medicine and supplements and these nutraceuticals provided by companies like Herbalife, Amway, and the iPills, and as such. So, Dr. Phillips, thank you for joining with us.
Thank you for having me on this program. Thank you.
Thank you. So, before we dive right in, please tell the audience about your profession and the research that you have carried out in the Monarch Liver Laboratory at the Rajgiri Hospital, if I'm saying correctly, in Kerala.
So I'm a trained hepatologist, meaning I take care of patients with liver disease. So this is very different from gastroenterology, which is actually to do with the whole of digestive system. So this is a super subspecialization of gastroenterology known as hepatology. So I did my training followed by my master's in internal medicine at Neelatan Sarkar Medical College in Calcutta, and I went on to do my hepatology DM course in Institute of Liver and Biliary Sciences in Delhi. So I've been working as a consultant in hepatology since last 5 to 6 years, and a lot of my work actually is on cirrhosis, especially alcoholic liver disease, which is very, very common in South, especially in Kerala. And on top of that, accidentally, I have been exposed to a lot of patients who come with severe liver injuries due to drugs. So initially, it was all thought to be due to prescription drugs that we commonly see, anti-tuberculosis drugs or painkillers or old world, antibiotics and such. But what I have been seeing is that after an in-depth evaluation of a large number of patients that I've been seeing, a lot of these patients were actually on herbal supplements, for a lot of reasons, from diabetes to loss of appetite to weight loss, you name it. There is a herbal supplement for everything. And that is how I started getting interest in studying herbal liver injuries. And then this actually became my primary line of work. And my basic work is on analysis of these products, treating patients with severe herbal liver injury, and also studying clinical outcomes and toxicology of these herbal products. So, in short, I have been also working actively in this since last 4 to 5 years in herbal-related liver injury, and I am also the faculty member who has been part of the Asia Pacific Association of Study of Liver Disease guidelines on drug-induced liver injury, And that section on Ayush liver injury is formulated by me. So I have written guidelines for how to treat and diagnose patients with Ayush liver injury. So that is my work in short.
Thank you, doctor, for the in-depth introduction as such. And as you can see, the doctor has been involved in these herbal-induced liver toxicity or injuries, as it is called technically. So, going into the slightly in depth about this, I'll just put up a list of publications which the doctor published so far from 2017, which I think was the first time you have published.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
2017. Yeah.
yeah. So I'll just put up share the screen on that. So yeah, so this was the first paper which you published in as a case report in this, the uncommon cause of a common disease, severe steatohepatitis secondary to the Ayurvedic man-lion tonic, or the Narashima Rasayana, as it is called in their term. So I think this was the first publication.
Yeah, this was the first report, a case report on a particular Ayurvedic product known as Narasimha Rasayana, which is actually oil-based, ghee-based Ayurvedic formulation, which is given to young males for weight gain.
Yeah.
So this young man had actually taken this Ayurvedic product to gain weight, to look good for his photographs prior to his wedding. So and what happened was that he landed up with severe fatty liver disease, and his liver tests were off the roof. And once we actually diagnosed this, stopped the product, and treated him for fatty liver disease, he completely recovered. And that was the first case that I actually saw that an Ayurvedic product can actually cause liver injury. And this was the first report that I did.
Yeah. So prior to that, you haven't come across any report as such.
So before this, I was in Delhi. I worked there and studied there for a long time. And the causes for liver injury is very different in the north. Maybe because it's not been picked up, or maybe because the causes for liver injury is very different there. Because, for example, if you see, the number one cause of liver disease in the north is probably hepatitis B, and then maybe alcohol, or both together. But if you come down south, it's still alcohol, but we don't have much of hepatitis B or hepatitis C in south. But then we have a lot of drug-induced liver injury. So I think the regional differences matter. I have been picking up a lot of drug-induced liver injuries in the south, and most of the drug-induced liver injuries that you see in the north is because of anti-tuberculosis treatment, and not probably because of herbal medicines or alternative practices. So there is definitely a difference in the regions.
And after this, so you started publishing quite regularly with respect to the HILI and all. So there were two papers in 2017. Then after that, you published, I think, around 5 to 6 papers in 2018. Then in, I think, 2019, you had the infamous fiasco with Herbalife. So I'll just share that one now for the audience. So this was one of the sad events where money kind of won over science, like in the last century when the tobacco industry was campaigning that tobacco it does not cause any lung disease, lung disorders and all, or when the Exxon scientists were spreading their propaganda that man-made climate change is not a thing, and also like that. I think this, if not more, but at least this is as equal as failure of the this publishing houses to not submit to pressure from the vested groups with this regard. So the paper was very title the slimming to death as such, because of the I think this is a weight loss product from Herbalife, I think, for which they are quite well known. And the surprising thing is that toxicities related to Herbalife have been published quite regularly compared to other company products, right from 1998 to 2004. I think one of the first report was the 10 case series reported by one US scientist back in the day about toxicities related to Herbalife. Then in countries like Switzerland, Germany, and Croatia, they have reported toxicities related to Herbalife. So what happened here, like in this with this case patient?
Yeah. So basically, with Herbalife, if you actually look at it, my report is not the first report. There are, if you look at a single multi-level marketing product, that's what we call as MLM, which is actually a pyramid system, where they actually sell a product and then get commission out of it. So it's like multi-level marketing. So if you look at the multi-level marketing products, the maximum number of liver toxicity has been linked with Herbalife. And this has been happening much before I published my single report. And before I published, I think there were close to 55 cases of Herbalife related liver injuries reported in published literature. And this was actually mostly from Israel, Switzerland, like you said, Germany, from US. And all of these reports actually dealt with patient outcomes, clinical outcomes. How did they diagnose it and what happened to the patient? And there was one report from Europe by Professor Stickel, where he actually identified the Herbalife products were contaminated with a particular bacterial strain, a particular bacteria known as
Bacillus subtilis.
Bacillus subtilis, yeah. And that actually caused severe liver injury in the patients who consumed it. So what I did was that I went one step ahead. So I described my patient. My patient actually died after consuming Herbalife. And she actually consumed it for her weight loss. She was a patient, she was 24 years of age, mother of two. And she went to this nutritional club and they got Herbalife products worth of, there were some 4 or 5 products which they got for about 10,000 rupees. They consumed it for over 2 months, and beyond 2 months, she started getting symptoms of liver injury, liver failure. And ultimately, when the moment I saw her, I knew that she would not survive with a liver transplant. I referred her for a liver transplant, but then it was too late. She died. And what I did was I went one step ahead and collected the Herbalife product from the place where she brought the Herbalife initially, and also multiple other products that were sold over the internet. And when I checked these products, I found out that most of these products, majority of them, had a lot of contaminants. Some had adulterants, some had psychotropic agents, and none of these were standardized. You look at the same product from bought from different parts of the country, everything had different components. It's not standardized. So the standardization was lacking. There was contamination, adulteration. And this particular aspect, along with that patient clinical aspect, I published as this particular report and called it as Slimming to the Death. Possibly a very intimidating title. Probably that is what actually triggered everyone. But it's the truth. And what happened was that after that, Herbalife mailed me saying that, we need proof that this actually happened. So I gave them the proof in the form of my report. I mean, my case report contains de-identified patient details, biopsies, product names, product purchase details, and the analysis. And what they did was they were not happy with it. So they mailed the editor-in-chief of the journal where I published this, and also the publisher, Elsevier. And they threatened them. Then they threatened me through legal force, saying that, this is defamation and you need to take it out. So I said, let us go to court, because I have the proof. The patient's husband is ready to speak on it. I mean, what more do you want? Patient's husband is ready to speak on it. We have ruled out all other causes of liver injury. And I said, let us go to court. And I did not hear from them ever after that. Herbalife knew that if I actually step up my game, they are going to be in trouble. And it's so simple. It's very easy to debunk their claims because none of their products are scientifically proven. They don't need to, because they serve it as or sell it as a food supplement or a health supplement. So it is not like a drug. So you don't need to test it. So it escapes all that stringent policies that drugs require of it. But the problem is that most of these Herbalife products in these nutritional clubs are actually advertised in some form of a drug. It's not a drug, but then they advertise it like a drug. You take this, your thyroid will be fine, your thyroid disease will go away, your diabetes will go away. You can even get pregnant after taking Herbalife products. And there are a lot of advertisements like that. And they do it under the shadows. So basically what happened was that they started attacking the journal and the publisher. And obviously, it's a huge thing for them, because to fight a company like Herbalife, I mean, they are a multinational company, they have a lot of money. You can actually see by the ambassadors that they pay to come up on TVs, in advertisements. I mean, they have a lot of money. So to fight them, you need to spend money, effort, manpower, and obviously a small publisher, a small journal, and somebody like Elsevier will never go for. So what they did was, they said, okay, let us review the paper again. So we have something known as a peer review, where they actually look at the scientific validity of the paper and then they publish it. So that was done initially. So they said, let us go back again and do a re-review. So my paper actually went through 2 cycles of peer review. And the second peer review also said that, there is no problem. Everything was fine, because if there was a problem, they would retract my paper. They have not retracted the paper. If you see the title, it is written removed. And that is purely for legal reasons. Even though beneath, at that bottom part, the society which publishes the journal has written that it is removed for scientific problems. But they never told me what the scientific problem was. They actually mentioned that so that they can escape from the whole fiasco. So ultimately, those wordings were also not right, because removal means legal, retraction means scientific invalidity. So they actually completely messed it up, because they got so scared of what Herbalife will do to them. And Herbalife knew exactly where to attack. They knew that the journal will actually budge. But I won't. I'll definitely go ahead. I mean, I'll somehow manage and work it up the lawful ladder, not like what the journal did. So the journal did not want to spend money and everything. So ultimately they said, we'll do what you say. And they removed my paper. They initially gave legal reasons. Then they changed it without my knowledge to scientific invalidity and all that, when there was no scientific invalidity actually proven. And then they published it saying that there was an error. And in PubMed, I actually sent a legal notice to the journal saying that, there is no scientific invalidity, you never proved it, so please do not write like that. So what they did was, they went back to PubMed. So if you look at the PubMed lines, it is still written removed for legal reasons. And it became like that. Now, I did not go behind it, because one thing is that going behind it means I have to drag the whole family into it, in the sense the patient's family. And they were just, recovering from the whole tragedy. He had 2 kids to take care of. A couple of years, 3 years later, he remarried, and I just wanted to leave them alone. So I did not go push it further. But I am still on the lookout for all of these herbal and dietary supplements causing issues on public health. And at some point, I'll collate all this data and come out. I mean, it's not just Herbalife, it is everything like Herbalife. So Herbalife was actually the beast in it all, in the sense that Herbalife actually has the largest penetration among Asian countries, European and US countries. Herbalife is very well regulated in the US. A lot of products that they sell here in India have a lot of liver toxic ingredients which are not allowed in the US. It's very clear. The US tells them, the US FDA tells them, see, you can only market this stuff with this component. So if there is some component that is problematic, please remove it. And that is what happens there. In here, nobody bothers. Nobody bothers. So after my publication came out, it was removed and that whole fiasco happened. Dr. Elizabeth Bick, who's actually a science integrity expert, she actually wrote about it. And if there were some issues with my paper, she would definitely tell me on my face, or she would definitely put it on her blog saying that, this paper is problematic and Herbalife is right. She did not do that. She said there was nothing wrong with the paper and Herbalife did everything wrong. And this is not the way we work it out in science. This was a classical example of how industry pressure can actually bring down science to protect their businesses. There is nothing to do with science. There is nothing to do with public health here. It's just money, power, and business protection. And that's it. And Herbalife story is the same. After I published my paper and it was removed and all that stuff, you should see the papers that have come out from Latin America. Large systematic reviews, large prospective series of patients with Herbalife-induced liver injury. Can you believe it? It's still going on. It's still going on, and everything is under the blankets. Everything is under shadows. People are still reporting on Herbalife liver injuries, and I don't think anybody is even bothered about this aspect of nutraceutical and public health.
So for the audience, few points from what the doctor said. Like, so if you want to check about these kind of reports and reviews and all, you can simply go to the Google Scholar and type Herbalife and toxicity, and then you will get at least around 500 hits, from where you can select which papers talk about the toxicities and all. And then as you scroll down, you will see publications which talk about Herbalife products which had to be taken off the market in countries like Spain, Croatia, because of these reported toxicities. And another one is about Dr. Elizabeth Bick. So she is quite famous to in catching this was image manipulations in scientific these papers. And also you can go and check out Microbiome Digest, which is her website, where she lists regularly on microbiome related papers and all. And then on her Twitter account, where she regularly uploads these image manipulations and all. So we'll provide the link in the description in below. Now, coming back to this DILI, one of the things which I think I have observed among the doctors in or the medical fraternity in India is that, okay, they do their diagnosis and all based on scientific facts which have been taught in the MBBS courses and all. But when it comes to application of scientific thinking, I think this seems to be like lacking in like major population or like in the medical fraternity. Like I've seen doctors regularly like prescribing Liv 52 for this cirrhosis and all those like liver disorders and all. So and even alkaline water, like this is one of the products which is being like even promoted by some doctors for like health benefits and all. So which was quite surprising. Now, what do you think like is like how have been your experience with regard to this with like among the medical fraternity?
So I mean, if you look at the modern medicine practitioners, see, I'm not speaking on behalf of science or science integrity or scientific temper, but my personal point of view while treating a patient is that you have to treat the patient as per evidence, right? So if somebody comes with hepatitis A, which is actually self-limiting hepatitis, viral hepatitis A, it's from contaminated food and water. You get the hepatitis A, you have jaundice, you have hepatitis, your liver functions are bad, but you don't need to treat it. You don't need to give any medicines per se, because you don't need to. There is no medicine against hepatitis A. There is a vaccine, but there is no medicine against it. So once you get hepatitis A, you support the patient, good nutrition. Some patients might require hospital admission because they might be too weak, or they might be dehydrated because of vomiting. So you support them, and then in due course of time, that in more than 99% of patients, 90 to 99% of the patients, that hepatitis A will resolve in few weeks' time, and jaundice will go away. Now the problem is that a lot of the doctors actually know it, but then they actually give a lot of medicines. For example, Liv 52. Liv 52 is given for all of these infective hepatitis. That is what they actually advertise on their website. It's good for a lot of things, including cirrhosis progression, whatnot. And they also include infective hepatitis. And the infective hepatitis like hepatitis A and E are all self-limiting. Even if you give them Liv 52 or not, they are going to get better. So what they do is they give this, and the patient actually feels that, it is because of this that they're getting better. Even the doctor feels so. So it all becomes experience. There is no evidence in it. It's all experience. So that experience actually drives doctors to do more and more of this non-evidence based stuff. And why do they do that? That is because they lack a scientific and critical thinking. Just because you are educated, you have learned science, you have gone through your MBBS, MD, DM, doesn't guarantee that you have a critical thinking. In the sense that once you actually start practicing medicine, it's not about prescribing drugs. It's about prescribing drugs at the right time. And most importantly, you should know when not to prescribe. That is the most important part of a doctor. Your doctors are not made to prescribe drugs. You should prescribe drugs only when it is needed. And all these doctors who prescribe Liv 52 and all those kind of proprietary Ayurvedic medicines, and even A lot of modern medicines have been prescribed unnecessarily for a lot of diseases when it is not required. This is all because they lack that critical thinking from the patient point of view. And most of them are not updated. A doctor is a student for life. For example, I read at least an hour a day, every day, without fail. I read something new, or I brush back on something in science and hepatology every day. I don't waste a day. So when you keep updating yourself, you will understand how science works and how you can apply science in your patients. This critical thinking is lacking. So what happens is that a lot of these doctors who have no time, they'll be seeing a lot of patients every day. They have no time to do this updation on a daily basis. They depend upon these drug company agents and representatives. They come and show them a product and say that this study has been done and this is the product and this is how good it is. They just take it at face value and they prescribe. And that is what happens with Live 52. Because if you look at Live 52, I'm taking this as an example, Live 52, because it is the most beautiful example of how you can whitewash pseudoscience as science. And Live 52 is the perfect product for it. If you look at their publications on Live 52 from 1955, I mean, it's from 1955. And there are almost, they claim on the website that there are 300 plus publications. But if you actually look at it, human studies maybe 6 or 7. And out of that, a proper level 4 or level 5 clinical trial, which we call as levels of evidences are there, no? Level 4, level 5 are very good evidence for somebody to use that drug. There is no level 4, level 5 in Live 52 since last 5 decades. It's all level 1, level 2, level 1, level 2. A lot of the studies are preliminary studies on either cells or tissue culture or animals. Very few, very poorly done, very bad methodically done studies in humans. And this is what they actually show the doctors. And most of them are published either in a predatory journal, a fake journal, or it's published in a very dubious journal which nobody has heard of. But then the title and all are very good. A clinical trial of Live 52 in this. And you show that to the doctors who's practicing, they'll take it at face value and they write it. But if you actually spend time and look at those studies, you'll know that none of those studies are actually quality studies for us to prescribe this drug. And if you look at it, since last 5 decades, 6 decades, there is absolutely no evidence that Live 52 works for any liver disease. No evidence. I can guarantee this. If somebody can actually correct me, I'll stand corrected. I will prescribe Live 52. I'm 100% sure of it. If the whole problem about doctors not doing the right thing from a science point of view is because they are too busy with their practices, and I think they should be more patient-centric in their approach to treatment, and then things will become very clear. I mean, would I prescribe, if a family member of mine is having jaundice, would I prescribe Live 52 for them? Absolutely not. My patient is my extended family. So would I prescribe Live 52 for them? No, absolutely not. Why? Because there is no evidence. It's so simple. But then I think more and more doctors should come to this point of patient-centric care, and then things will change.
So, continuing on from this Live 52 thing, you have been doing chemical analysis of the various products which the patients have been consuming. So, can you share some very shocking findings from these chemical and biological analysis?
Yes, I mean, I can actually share a very real story. It's not a story; it's a real what happened really. And this particular what I'm going to discuss here is actually published in the Ken, which is actually an online news portal, where the patient family actually gave the interview on Ken regarding there was a beautiful article on herbal drugs and its safety in India, and this particular story was actually featured in it. I've tweeted about it, and the Ken website has actually this particular story also. So what happened was that there was this 12-year-old girl, young girl, 12 years of age. She had epilepsy, seizures. She had fits recurrently in childhood. So she was on good medicines, modern medicines for control of these seizures. She was doing well for 2 years. So the doctors started reducing the seizure medications. So what happens is that some seizures are prolonged in the sense that they go away only after you reach a particular age. There are different types of epilepsies. So the moment you start reducing the dose, some patients have breakthrough seizures. For example, they again get the fits when the doses are reduced. So this girl started getting seizures again when the dose was reduced. Now the neurologist who was seeing her told her family that we cannot reduce the dose so fast, so we'll have to go back to the slightly higher dose and then maybe follow her up and see maybe in 3 or 5 years how much we can reduce and then maybe stop it later on. So they were not very happy with that because they said, I mean, people ask, is there a cure? There are diseases which you cannot cure. There are diseases that we can control, and that is enough. There are certain diseases which are long term and you control them, like diabetes and all that. So you don't say cure in that. So, but people want that cure. They need a cure. So when they asked, is there a cure? So the doctor said very confidently, he said that I cannot say cure, but we can control it, and then we'll take it one step at a time. So they were not happy. So they went to an Ayurvedic practitioner in Kerala. And this particular Ayurvedic hospital is very famous for neurology. They treat a lot of brain diseases. I have no idea how, but they do it. And this girl went there. They stopped all her modern medicines. They started her on Ayurvedic medicines. So 4 years, she was on Ayurvedic drugs. About 6 or 7 of these drugs, along with syrups and decoctions and whatnot, arishtas and a lot of stuff, Ayurvedic. I have tweeted on this also, and all the products I have actually mentioned on my Twitter also. I'll share that with you. And she was seizure free for 4 years. Things were fine. And suddenly one day she gets jaundice. Her bilirubin goes up to 8 and her eyes are yellow. Then the general physician who saw her initially refers her to me. And then I see her and I see a young girl. She is now 16 years of age and she's deeply jaundiced. So what I did was I looked at all the common causes that we look at. For example, hepatitis viruses, other prescription drugs, like I said, painkillers and all that. None of that was there. Everything was negative. So ultimately I said, okay, let us do a liver biopsy, because doing a liver biopsy will give us the cause for liver injury and also the extent of liver injury, how much the damage has happened. So I did the liver biopsy and my pathologist called me and said, why is this young girl drinking so much of alcohol? And I said, it's impossible. She's 16 years of age. She's such a nice girl, goes to school, very good in studies. What are you saying? He said, no, the liver biopsy is showing severe alcoholic hepatitis. It's alcoholic hepatitis. My pathologist was so clear. It's alcoholic hepatitis. I went and checked under the microscope. It's alcoholic hepatitis. So at that time, I did not know that they were taking these Ayurvedic medicines. So I went back and said, see, something is wrong. What are you actually taking? Show me the whole stuff. So they brought the whole medicines to my OPD. A lot of Ayurvedic medicines with these bottles and all that. I sent these samples to my lab for analysis, and lo and behold, or most of these syrups that she was having contained alcohol as high as maybe fortified wine and sometimes as good as a standard liquor, like 20 to 25% alcohol. That was the reason why she developed alcoholic liver injury at the age of 16 because of Ayurvedic drugs. But it doesn't end there. What I did was I treated her for alcoholic hepatitis and that settled, but her jaundice was not fully going away. So we did a repeat biopsy. And my pathologist says that, I have not seen this pattern of liver injury very commonly. This is something known as hepatoportal sclerosis, HPS. And it is classically seen in some particular toxins, and mostly it is seen in arsenic. So arsenic can actually cause liver injury in the form of hepatoportal sclerosis, which can actually lead to liver injury, and patients can come with jaundice and they can have fluid accumulation in the abdomen, just like a cirrhosis patient. So I went and checked all the analytical part, and heavy metals, plenty. Even her nail and her hair samples had arsenic in it. So she was poisoned. She was poisoned chronically over 4 years through Ayurvedic medicines, in the form of alcohol consumption in the medicines, and also in the form of arsenic toxicity in the Ayurvedic medicines. And her liver had 2 types of liver injury. One was alcoholic liver injury, one was arsenic liver injury. Thankfully, she did not have to undergo a liver transplant. She still follows up with me. But the biggest issue of arsenic chronic poisoning is that patients can develop something known as angiosarcoma, which is a cancer of the liver. They can develop skin cancers 10 to 15 years later. So I'm very worried about her future. She cannot get married. She cannot have a family life because she is always at risk of developing cancers. So who will I tell these stories to? Who will I tell these real stories to? I mean, this is really happening, and this is all because of Ayurvedic medicines. And I have documentation. I still have the medicines with me. The parents of this girl gave interview, and it is all published. And I mean, you would have seen recently, yesterday, Ayush Ministry sent a notice against me saying that I should stop talking about herbal drug toxicities and move on with my life. Otherwise, they will charge sheet me and all that, or whatever. But this is real, and it is happening. This is just one story that I'm telling you. I have even worse stories to tell you. I mean, lack of time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So to the audience, what I would like to say is that where the stories that the doctor have been sharing with us on this video or on the Twitter and all, and which we will be sharing in the future. It's not that we want to disparage or discourage any like these Ayush practices and all those things. It's just that we want them to be scientifically validated. Like some of the good examples in which beneficial drugs came out of these things is the famous Artemisinin. So Dr. Yu too, she went through like thousands of pages of the ancient the Chinese medicine texts and all, and then she this in one of the plants, the Artemisia, she was able to find this Artemisinin, which is now being used to treat malaria and all. So, and many such examples are there, like Taxol, then you have the reversterone, and all such compounds are there. So, the idea is that you have to scientifically validate these things, and not the whole plant or the plant parts are useful. So, there are specific compounds in plants which is technically called the secondary metabolites, which are which some of them can have beneficial medical effects, but the thing is we have to find them. So we'll be doing a couple of videos on these as well, and talking about which of these compounds are useful, and then which of these are toxic. Like some of the these chemicals, if you put on your skin and expose yourself in the sun, it can cause skin damage. So all these compounds are there, but we just have to find the specific one which is beneficial to the to you or to anyone who is consuming that thing. Now, however, accessing these information and all is not easy. The people have to read up on this scientific literature and all those things. So what advice would you give to the patients who are constantly being bombarded with these advertisements, for this all these supplements and this alternative medicine, and what sort of let's say scientific thinking would you tell them, so that they can reduce the risk of these kind of exposures?
See, it's very simple. If you are going to buy a new car, you will test drive it, right? Nobody's going to just go in a dealership and say, okay, I'm just getting this car. You will test drive it. It's the same with your health. If someone is prescribing a medicine, which is a multi-herbal drug or a herbal drug or some health supplement that you would like to, you don't go blindly have it. You actually test drive it. You need to know what this stuff does actually. For example, if a patient, it's a patient's right to know about what the patient is receiving. So if somebody asks me, why did you prescribe this particular drug? For example, there is a drug called as rifaximin, which I prescribe very frequently to my cirrhosis patients. And my cirrhosis patients ask me, why do you prescribe rifaximin? It's an antibiotic. Why are you prescribing this for 3 months, 6 months? Continuously, it's an antibiotic. So I tell them, see, rifaximin is actually a non-absorbable antibiotic. It does not get absorbed into the body, so you'll have no systemic effects. And rifaximin has these many studies done on it, and it actually is helpful in patients with something known as hepatic encephalopathy, where you actually have reduced ammonia levels in the body. It prevents secondary infections in cirrhosis. There are so many uses of rifaximin, we know it. Are there any side effects of rifaximin? We know that too. Very rarely, some patients have had some allergic reactions to rifaximin. Otherwise, rifaximin is such a safe drug. It is different from rifampicin, which is actually a TB drug. It has its own problems with liver injury and whatnot. And we know exactly which patients can develop rifampicin liver injury, which drug can interact with rifampicin and cause liver injury. All this we know. So it's a patient's right to ask, and it is our onus, our duty to tell them that these things can happen with this drug, but you take it for this many months, it's safe. We know it because studies have been done on it. That same level of curiosity has to be there for alternative medicines. For example, if somebody is giving you ashwagandha for stress or for lack of sleep, I mean, it's also a herbal product that is used for a lot of things. And no actual studies to prove it, by the way, but it's used for a lot of things. So you should ask that person or if you go to a place and you're buying ashwagandha supplement off the shelf, you read about ashwagandha, go to the internet or ask a physician about ashwagandha if he knows something, because everybody has a family doctor, everybody has a physician to go to and talk to. Speak to them. So what they should do is that they should read about it and they should tell them the right information, whether to use or not, what are the benefits, what are the problems. If the physician just says that, it's your decision, I don't know about it, that's the wrong part from the physician. But as a patient or as a consumer, you should have that curious mind about what all you're going to have. For example, I find it very strange that people are actually very scared of paracetamol in India. First thing is that liver injury paracetamol. It's the safest drug ever. The number of liver injury cases that you see with paracetamol is because of suicidal attempts, because it's overdosed unknowingly or knowingly. People consume it to kill themselves. That is how you get liver failure with paracetamol. Otherwise, you don't get it. It can cause liver injury in a small group of patients with chronic liver disease, but there are doses specified for such patients, and we know the doses. We don't cross those doses. But the same group of people have no issues with popping a pill containing 23 plants. I mean, totally different. It has ashwagandha, it has giloy, it has curcumin, it has whatnot. And they have no issues because they pop it. That is because they think that herbal and natural means safe. It is not so. Herbal and natural is probably more toxic than actual prescription drugs that we have actually studied on. And unless and until you have good evidence to show that it is beneficial with a very low risk of side effects, go for it. If there is no benefit and you have reports of side effects, don't go for it. It's very simple. It's common sense that you apply on your health. Just like you go buy a car, you test drive it. You use that same aspect in your health also. And everything becomes so clear. There is no confusion. Or you go to an expert or your physician, talk to them, get the details, and then go for it.
So, what are some resources which the public can access to check about, say, toxicities related to herbs like ashwagandha or the giloy and all these?
Yes, so there is this website called the Liver Talks. I mean, this is specifically for liver. And Liver Talks, LIVERTOX, is actually run by the National Institute of Health, NIH, in the US. And they usually update their database, and it's very simple. It's written in very simple language. Anybody can understand it. You go to Liver Talks, on the search bar, you type in curcumin or ashwagandha, you will get all the details of side effects and benefits, and everything is mentioned there. That is one good website that you can actually look into. The second one is also run by the US government, which is actually National Institute for Complementary and Integrative Medicine, NCCIM, National Institute for Complementary and Integrative Medicine. And there they actually give very simple explanations regarding if some particular herb should be used, if you're going to use it, what are going to be the problems with it, is there any benefit, everything they write very clearly. For example, when there was a publication from India on giloy, saying that giloy can cause autoimmune hepatitis, something known as, giloy is actually a drug, a plant that can actually completely disturb your immune functions, and that can lead to immune-related liver injury. So when the papers came out showing that giloy use can actually cause immune-related liver injury, the first thing Ayush Ministry did was to say that the paper is fake. And it's a peer-reviewed paper. They said that the paper is fake, giloy is safe, please have it. We've been having it for thousands of years. That is not the way to regulate. If this was in the US, The NICM would actually say that, we have these reports coming in about giloy. Everybody, please be aware. Use it only if you have some clinical evidence. We have these evidence, or we don't have these evidence. Let us do more work on it. There is going to be a pharmacovigilance study on this by the US government or by the groups who conduct it. And then we will see if this actually is more harmful or more beneficial. And then you please go ahead. That is how you regulate. Here it's just promotion. There is no regulation aspect here. So the whole point is to regulate. And these websites that I have told you, because we don't actually have a good regulatory body telling us what to do, what not to do. I think every man for himself in India. Go to these websites, talk to your physician, get the knowledge from your own side, because now everybody can access scientific data so easily. And you can actually go through it. If you don't understand it, ask your expert, ask your physician to explain this to you, so that you actually don't go for something that is potentially harmful.
I think even the website run by Dr. Edzard Ernst is also good for looking into some of the this thing, like his write-ups on homeopathy and all.
Yeah, but Professor Edzard Ernst actually writes a lot on homeopathy-based studies. A lot of he does not actually talk about adverse events per se, but overall homeopathy studies, new developments coming out of it. He does a wonderful job of updating it. Yeah.
So we will provide the links in the description, like as such below, and then you can check it out to see like what all are listed in this thing. So I think we have come to the end of this discussion. So finally, what would you like, as a general advice, what would you like to say to the those upcoming, say, doctors who might want to, say, enter, like not just in the clinical aspect, but also research part of being a doctor, or even those those who just finished, class 12, and all those who want to enter into the this clinical research kind of areas.
My advice is to actually follow the scientific path. If you want, see, it's not just becoming a doctor makes you follow science. I mean, it's tough to get into an MBBS or an MD or a DM stream so easily. It's very competitive. What happens is that they want to do this medicine as their profession, as their career, but when they're not able to do it, they fall to these pseudo-scientific kind of professions, mostly homeopathy and Ayush related. So what I would suggest is that, not getting a MBBS seat or MD seat is not the end of it. There are a lot of ways that you can actually still be part of the scientific community. And what I have seen is that a lot of my colleagues, when I was at the institute, a lot of my colleagues who were working there in the clinical research department, they had completed their masters in physics, bachelors in botany, bachelors in zoology. Some of them are actually veterinary doctors. They had done their bachelors in veterinary medicine, but then they did a short course in clinical research methodology, and then they joined the institute, and they were actually very actively working on a lot of clinical research projects in hepatology, gastroenterology. They were publishing papers, they were presenting in international stages. It's wonderful. It's not just seeing patients that makes you a science person. You can actually contribute to the scientific community or your general community by following scientific streams. And I think this is very important for every student who wants to pursue science as a career should know. MBBS, MD, DM, yes, it's good to have a clinical practice per se, but clinical practice does not guarantee a clinical research mind. You can actually have that through other ways also. A lot of my recent colleagues who I've been working with, two of them are homeopaths. They have done their bachelor's in homeopathy, but they're not practicing now. But they are helping me do my clinical work and clinical research work. And now they know the whole scientific method because they have some exposure in homeopathy on modern textbooks regarding science and science subjects. So they have the basic idea. It's very easy to make them grow on it. So that is my sincere suggestion, that if you want to pursue scientific career, don't just think of medicine. There are a lot of ways that you can become a scientific person and look at or practice science as part of your profession. And for doctors who are already practicing, I think every doctor, like we said, every adult should have a child inside. I mean, the same way, I think every doctor should have a basic scientist inside. If you completely remove basic science from your clinical practice, then there is not much that you can offer your patients. I have a clinical work from Monday to Friday, but Saturday, Sunday, I spend a lot of time on basic sciences. I do a lot of basic science work. Once you do basic science work, you are actually empowered. And once you're empowered, you can do many new things for your patients and for your practice. And for every doctor who passes out from MBBS, MD, DM, I wish they actually have that clinical research mind. They never let go of it, so that they can actually be of great use. They are obviously of very good use to their patients and community. But if you want to step it up a bit further, embrace basic science and research activities in your day-to-day practice, and then you can become a great doctor.
So thank you very much, doctor, for for sharing a part of your busy schedule with us, and we hope that we can have you again in the future for much more interesting discussions like this.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I had a great time discussing all this from my personal and professional aspects.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank
doctor.
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.